Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister, how are you?
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm alright, thank you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, good, thank you very much. Jazakallah khair for joining us today on the Niqabi Diaries. Sister, could you just introduce yourself for us and tell us a little bit about what you do?
No worries. So I'm Naima. And I'm an Niqabi, obviously, because I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. So a little bit about myself. I'm a student. Um, I'm currently in college. I wanted to go to university, but I kind of changed my mind about the course I wanted to do. So yeah, that's that. And then outside of studying as well, I run my own like online business, whereby we are basically part of a forex educational platform.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please, sister?
So outside of studying, I've also got my own online business,
Okay.
which is like an online forex educational platform. So
What
we
is
basically
forex?
teach people. Say that again, sorry.
What is forex?
Okay. So to put it simply, it's basically foreign exchange.
Okay.
So we deal with like digital currencies, um, foreign currencies, cryptocurrencies, and things like commodities, stocks, indices, and I think that's a lot of it.
Okay, mashallah. Sounds really interesting.
Um, yeah, 100%.
Just, inshallah, just tell us about the niqab. What made you want to wear it?
Um, so for me personally, it was more of a thing where um, like for me, the way I've grown up, the way I look has always had an input on the way people perceive me and like the way people treat me and whatnot. And it will always bring like attention to me that I did not want. Um, so obviously, I looked into niqab, and obviously within Islam, it's supposed to be this thing that obviously kind of deters anything that you wouldn't want to come towards you. So I thought to look into it and see how like whether or not I could actually wear it or not. And then I started wearing it for that purpose, but because of like the response that I got from family, I ended up taking it off after like two
So
months.
when was that?
So the first time that I put it on, I think I was actually just fresh out of school, so I was 16 at the time. And I put it on because I was in a country where there like it was the norm for people to be wearing niqab. So I thought it wasn't as hard for me to wear it. And at that point, I was just on my own abroad.
Okay.
So family didn't really like. There wasn't really. I basically didn't think about what they would have thought about because they weren't there with me.
Yeah.
But then I came back to the UK after that summer, and obviously I was still wearing it, and I the response that I wanted, and I ended up breaking and I just stopped wearing it. And I went back to just wearing a khimar and a abaya
Okay.
for a while. And then the second time that I started wearing it was last year. So last year around Ramadan time. And I actually started wearing it on Eid Day because I thought, you know what, now is a great time to actually start wearing it. And obviously at that point my head game was much stronger, whereby I'd obviously looked into like evidences of whether or not it's fun or not. And to me, I thought, you know what, it actually does make sense for it to be a thing where it's fun for me to wear it, because the whole purpose of it, right, is to conceal your beauty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the first thing that people look at that is considered a major part of beauty is your face. So it wouldn't, to me, it didn't make sense that my face was uncovered, but you know, the rest of my body was covered.
Yeah.
And I thought, even when people make a decision on whether or not you're beautiful, a lot of the time, or from like what I've observed, a lot of the time is your facial features, like, oh, she's got really nice eyes,
Yeah.
or she's got like really distinct features. Um, so for me, it made sense for me to be like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna start wearing it. Um, but again, this time around as well, family wasn't really with it. But because I'd already done my research on it, and at this point, I was actually in touch with a couple of sisters who obviously were much further ahead in terms of like their deen, and in terms of their knowledge surrounding the deen as well. And I
Mm.
just started spending more time with those sisters. And eventually, I actually came across a revert sister who told me that she obviously started observing the carb and like a whole lot of gloves, everything. Which for me, I personally, I don't wear gloves, and even wearing jilbab hasn't. It's still, I would still consider myself to be more towards the abaya side.
Okay.
But I spoke to her about it, and from the way she was talking about it, obviously for her it was more of a thing where it was easier for her to now practice her religion, because if she was to go outside, no one would know that it's her, or like no one from her jahiliyyah would know that it's her.
Yeah.
But for me, I thought, if someone who's new to this religion, who has every right to be like, oh, you know what, I'm not ready for this, can be this ready for it, then what's holding me back? And I remember the next day, I literally woke up. I had this set. I had the set that I ordered. A jilbab set with like a niqab that I ordered, and I wasn't really sure about whether to wear it or not. But then I just ended up wearing it, and it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Um, and that's obviously referring to just wearing it outside. But
Alhamdulillah.
yeah, alhamdulillah. It was obviously Eid. So I ended up actually going to family's houses, and what kind of broke me on that day was the way my family responded.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think that's the only thing that I've that's been a struggle for me in wearing it, if I'm honest.
Yeah. So what was their response?
Um, Simply put, they were just like, "Where is this coming from?" I even remember after we took some pictures, me and my sisters took pictures. We sent them through to my mum, and because she was abroad at the time, and she called me and she was just like, "Did you meet a guy? Like, where is this coming from?" Um, and I thought the way that they made it seem like it was an abrupt decision.
Mm.
From my perspective, I thought, well, you feel like I'm trying to find out more about this. I'm trying to fix up my deal and whatever. So why does it come as a surprise? And I ended up having a conversation with my sister actually, whereby she was just like Nims, you're 17, like you can't make such a big decision at age 17. Um, and one thing with me as well, it's just that I don't sometimes I can be really stubborn, but I don't understand why I can't do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Of
this was
course.
one of those cases where I thought, well, why can I not make the decision for myself? The same way I've made the decision to put on a khimar and put on a abaya, why can't I decide whether or not I want to wear a niqab?
Mm.
Because you've allowed me to decide what courses I'll be doing in sixth form. That's a big decision. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Of course.
Well, but obviously it's not the same type of big decision. But I thought sixth form and like picking A levels, that's going to determine where my future goes.
Yeah.
So if anything, you guys should be more concerned with my choices for A levels than you should be with me putting a cloth on my face. But I obviously, on the other hand, did understand like it's a case of concern, and this was around the time where acid attacks were still like happening, and there were about sisters being attacked. I even remember speaking to a sister who ended up taking off her niqab because I think there was this one time where she was out with her son and someone tried to strangle her purely for the fact that she was wearing a niqab. So it's kind of like I did understand obviously where the concern was coming from, but with the reasoning that I was being given, like, oh, you're only 17, like you're not married, what are you doing? It didn't really click for me.
SubhanAllah. Yeah, I can understand how you must have been really confused, because I'm similar as well. If something doesn't make sense to me, you can't tell me that I can't do it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just like,
Yeah,
you have to prove to
100%.
me that it doesn't, that there's a good reason why I shouldn't do something. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to stop me from doing it. And
Yeah,
subhanAllah, like, obviously this is part of your deen, is something that's related to your akhirah. So this is your bigger future. And doing
yeah.
it is a positive thing for your actual real future. Yeah. So and
But
it's not.
that's the thing as well, because obviously,
Yeah.
sorry, go on.
No, yeah. I was just gonna say, like, basically, it's not like, for example, with your A levels or GCSEs, when you choose something, you don't really know, like, oh, it's not certain whether that's really going to be good for you or not. Do you know what I mean, in your future? But when it
Yeah,
comes to following the command of Allah, it's going to be good for you, because that's what Allah wants for us. That's what Allah's commanded us to do already. So it's not like, oh yeah, if you follow Allah's command, it's not going to be good. We know
but
that
that was the thing as well.
that's Allah's
Like for
promise.
me, that's obviously the first thing that I put forth when I was asked, like, why are you wearing it?
Mm,
I thought, well, it does say that a woman should cover their beauties, and you know, it was brought down to Prophet ﷺ,
nice for them.
to tell his women and to tell the women of Mu'mineen to cover themselves, right? And I thought to myself, so if Allah's telling me to do this, then why can't I? And then I remember I had family members, I had my sister specifically, um, told me, oh, because I must have provided like the evidence for it, because she was like to me, oh, where does it say this? Because if you show me where it says this, then like I will do it regardless of whether I'm not ready for it.
Mm,
And I remember I showed her this thread actually that another sister sent through to me when I was doing my research.
yeah.
And long story short, um being like, oh, it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know if you know the hadith whereby it said to cover the face and then only keep one eye open if necessary to see the
Yes.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she kind of just was like, oh, but that looks stupid. Like, why would you tell anyone to do that? And at that point, for me, myself, I thought, okay, do you know what? She clearly doesn't believe it to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to respect that. So at that point, for me, it no longer was proving that I'd had the genuine reason for doing it.
Yeah.
It was more getting family to just respect the
That you've
decision
made.
that I'd
Yeah.
made.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even up until now, like I still get comments of like, "Oh, why don't you just take it off?" Whereby it's like, "Are you like I've been wearing it for over a year now, and you're still like on my case." If
Yeah.
that makes sense. And I
SubhanAllah.
even
Yeah.
remember, I think when I got to about 6 month mark, um, I had family members telling me, "Oh, do you know what? I didn't think you'd stick it out this long. I expected it to be gone by now." Um, I had other people tell me, "Oh, it's going to come off by the time you're 21 because you're just going for a phase and whatever." And obviously, Allah Alam, whether that happens or not. But for me, my intention isn't for this to just be a phase,
Yeah. Of
if that
course.
makes sense. And if I'm honest, right now I'm at a place where I'm just like, you know what? I don't think I can ever go back
May Allah
to
keep you
just having my
steadfast.
face.
I mean,
Say that again, sorry.
I said, may Allah keep you steadfast. I mean,
Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. And likewise.
I mean, because you know what, like the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, like there's so many things like that is mentioned by the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam about you know, spending your youth for the sake of Allah. Do you know what I mean? Like one of those, the one who spends their youth for the sake of Allah will be under the Allah's shade on the day of judgment. SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
So like, and obviously there's others as well that's included in that, but you know, people don't seem to realize the blessing of youth. And when you dedicate yourself from a young age to what Allah wants, you know, there's so much barakah in that, you know, and you're at a critical age now, you could be doing anything like, and like really terrible and bad and silly and careless things, you know what I mean? And, you know, living in the West as well,
100%.
we're often encouraged just to do like anything because, oh, well, you're young, you know, you're young, so you
Yeah,
could
like
do,
just
you know,
live your
just,
life.
yeah, basically. But it's just like, subhanAllah, how many young people have died living their life and just, you
That
know,
was actually
doing
another
whatever
thing
they
as
felt
well that
like.
kind of triggered me.
SubhanAllah, it's a really careless way to raise the youth, and I think that unfortunately
100%.
a lot of Muslim parents have fallen into this kind of trap as well. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
if this is if their face spell is the only thing that they have to complain about, I think they should consider themselves lucky, to be honest.
100%. 100%. But obviously, I did want my mum to be okay with whatever it was that I was doing. And
Hmm.
I ended up actually having a sit down with her because there was one day where I had to go to work. And obviously, um, I also started wearing it to work.
Hmm.
And she was really upset. And obviously, I can't just go out of the house when I know my mum's literally there sitting and like being upset. So I ended up sitting down and I said to her, Mum, obviously, like, I genuinely understand where your concerns are coming from, but this is something that I'm happy with. Um, and I would honestly appreciate it if you could support me with it. And she was like, um, you haven't got any mahrams near you for them to obviously be looking out for you and whatnot. And I don't want you putting yourself in harm's way. So I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. And we ended up, I ended up compromising with her. She was like, okay, you know what? When it's dark outside, I don't want you wearing it. Like, you have to promise me that you won't wear it when it's dark outside. And at that point, I thought, okay, you know what? That's a reasonable thing because I'm usually not out after dark anyway. So I thought,
Yeah,
okay, doable. Um, but then obviously wintertime came
of course.
and
And it's dark
I'm
very
still
early.
outside dark at like 4 o'clock and I'm
Yeah.
still out working. And at that point, I think I reached a point of conflict whereby I was like, I know that this is fun for me to wear, but I made a promise to my mum that I won't wear it in the dark.
Hmm.
Um, and I actually ended up speaking to a few like senior students of knowledge about this. And to be quite honest, I'm still not sure with like what to do. But I've kind of just gone with my own instinct about it's like, you know what, at the end of the day, yeah, she's my mom, but it's like Allah's command is more important than obviously my mom, and I love her to bits. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's Allah that comes first. Um, so I took it upon myself to just be like, okay, you know what, when I'm not with her, then I do what I've got to do and just keep it on. But when I'm with her, I just make sure that I adhere to what she's asked of me. Yeah, so I was told like try and make an effort to stick to what Allah has told you to do, but at the same time also make an effort to not upset your mom. Um, Whereby I just thought, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna take it down a notch and just do that thing where um I don't wear it during dark when I'm with her, and then keep it on when I'm not with her.
Alhamdulillah. So how long exactly have you been wearing it now?
I would say over a year now.
Okay, alhamdulillah. And have you traveled outside the country with it on?
No, no, I haven't. I was set to travel this summer, but
Hmm.
obviously current situations meant
Yeah,
that I can't travel. But that has actually been one of those things that I think about,
yeah,
because I just think to myself, oh, what if I go to the airport and they single me out, that thing,
yeah. SubhanAllah,
or like if
khair, inshallah.
inshallah, obviously, because at the end of the day, it's in the hands of Allah, innit?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
I find
but it's just
personally that in
scenarios
the
that I
in the
think of.
UK, the airport really isn't that bad at all. I mean, they could pick you out, but like the treatment generally is not like bad. I haven't had any really negative experiences personally, and the sisters that I've spoken to so far, they haven't had any really negative experiences in like especially Western countries so far. So, I mean, usually it's the Muslim countries that can be a bit awkward sometimes, and it's not even so bad. It's
Yeah,
just like, for example, they don't care about making sure it's a woman that's going to see your face, whereas in the UK and other Western countries, they'll like make sure they'll bring a woman to like ID you. So, but like
100%. That's
Muslim
one thing that
countries,
I
sometimes
have
they
picked
just
up
don't
on.
care about that. But yeah, alhamdulillah.
No, I have picked up on that.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So, what are you currently doing now then? Is it
Sorry,
like, sorry?
I'm just stepping out again, so I thought I'd let you know because you can hear the keys ringing.
Oh, right, okay.
But yeah. You said what am I doing? Or
Yeah, like currently you said you're going to be going to college, you said?
so I'm actually in uni this September,
Oh,
but
starting uni. Okay.
supposedly, yeah. But I'm not really 100% on the whole uni thing just yet. So I've decided to do another year of college,
Hmm.
um, pick up like a different qualification or whatever, and then just see where that takes me really. Um, and another thing as well is for me, if I go uni, I want it to be like fully on my own accord, whereby I don't have to take out no student loan, no
Yeah,
nothing. Because obviously I do believe that student loans aren't exactly halal.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Alhamdulillah. So, well, I think you've probably answered this question, but I'll ask it from another perspective. Do you think that sisters who wear the niqab get treated differently from sisters who wear the hijab? And if you can give the perspective of like from the Muslim treatment or as well as non-Muslims, what do you think? Like, how's it been for you in your experience?
100%. So I think for me, I'll start on like the non-Muslim side first. What I've picked up on is that from like a non-Muslim perspective, I've had a lot more. Believe it or not, I get the vibe that non-Muslims tend to be more supportive
Mm-hmm.
of the decision that I've made and be more considerate of it than Muslims.
Yeah,
Um, and what I mean is obviously with non-Muslims is the type of attitude where it's like, you know what, at the end of the day, it's your life. You do whatever you want with it.
yeah,
If that means you want to wear a face veil, go for it. And obviously they're not necessarily interested um in like your justification as to why you're wearing it.
yeah,
Obviously, you will have like some people who are curious and are like, oh, how come you decide to wear it? But they won't ask you to explain yourself in
yeah,
the sense
exactly.
that like you owe them an explanation. Um, Whereas with Muslims, I think it was a bit easier to be Muslim when I wasn't wearing a niqab.
Yeah.
because there was no expectation of, oh, because you wear a veil now, you can't do this or you can't do that or you can't be seen with um, people that don't wear a hijab or like whatever. Because obviously for me, I grew up in a non-Muslim country,
Yeah.
and majority of like my friendship group um, is is um, is white or like non-Muslim
Yeah.
predominantly.
Uh-huh.
Um, and obviously since I started wearing the niqab, I still go places with them. I still just chill with them, have them come over and whatnot. And people just look at me, particularly with my family. It's like, what are you doing? Because those people aren't Muslim. You shouldn't be chilling with people who aren't Muslim, and especially as an Iqabi, like you're not meant to be doing that.
Mm.
As for me, it's I just think to myself like, what's wrong with me having a non-Muslim friend?
Yeah. What is wrong with it?
Um, and particularly, alhamdulillah, obviously my friends are pretty like respected and actually quite protective as well.
Mm.
Over the fact that I wear niqab, to a point where sometimes there've been cases where someone's being Islamophobic or someone says something, and they all just defend me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I've had incidents where I'm with um, I'm with like a Muslim friend or a Muslim relative, and rather than defending me, it's more of a, oh, see, I told you you shouldn't wear it. Like
Yeah.
you see the type of things that you attract to yourself, or you're putting people in danger. Um, so in that sense, I feel like I've had more of a positive response from non-Muslims than I have from Muslims.
Yeah.
I do obviously recognise that different people have different experiences within the pub, but that's how it's been for me personally.
Alhamdulillah. It's amazing. Like I find that I can totally relate to what you're saying in that kind of respect. Like, I mean, my family's not Muslim, but I feel like I have more support from my non-Muslim family than the Muslim community a lot of the time when it comes to
Yeah,
like wearing the niqab. I mean, it's kind of been 50-50. Some people are really like, oh, mashallah, you wear the niqab. And some people are like, oh, why are you wearing it? You don't have to wear that, you know? And then it's like you said, they try to make you like, you have to explain yourself why you're wearing it kind of thing.
yeah.
And subhanallah, like it's just like,
As
and
well.
it's the fear mongering as well. This is something that I personally don't like. It's just like, oh, you're doing something that's, oh, you putting yourself at risk, but actually I could be at risk
100%.
for so many other reasons, and which have nothing to do with me actually wearing the face veil.
I still face the same issues that I had when I was just wearing a shamar.
Yeah.
So how is it any different for me if I'm not wearing a niqab? And if it doesn't, you know, for me, the way I see it is the danger's the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, and the likelihood of things happening is still the same. So I thought there's actually literally nothing stopping me from wearing the niqab. Um, and particularly with the whole you're putting yourself at risk thing, I thought, you know what, at the end of the day, if it's written that something happens to me whilst I'm wearing the niqab, then anything I can do is pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes it a means of expiation for me or a means of reward.
Exactly.
Other than that, I really can't, like, safety is not promised. Safety is not promised. The only thing that can actually protect me, or the only person that can actually protect me wherever I am, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like, I can't, what am I actually scared of?
Exactly. We have to fear Allah more than anything else. This is what's important.
100%. And I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of feel like a bit hypocritical because obviously, wearing a niqab, I still have my struggles as well, whereby um, there are still things that I struggle with. In terms of like even little things like perfume or makeup and things like that. I just think to myself, at the end of the day, I'm trying,
Yeah.
and I think for me personally, that's the thing that matters more. The fact that I am trying, because I could very easily just be like, oh, you know what, forget about all of this. I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do,
Exactly.
and whatever comes on Yom Qiyamah, I'll deal with that then. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah,
But I don't want to
it's
be
all about taking the baby steps. You have to do bit by bit, and Allah knows the effort that you're
100%.
making because He knows, and He knows
Yeah,
the intention as well.
and that's the thing. Um, that was actually another thing as well. When I started wearing it, people when I suddenly expected me to, become Hafiz al-Quran in like 2-3 months.
Overnight, yeah.
Um, pray all sort of prayers and then put sunnah prayers on top and like do tahajjud and whatnot, and suddenly be at lectures 24/7.
Mm.
But for me, if I'm being honest, obviously there are people out there for whom it works, right? But more often than not, the way I see it is just me throwing myself into the deep end.
Mhm.
Um, and that's why I think another thing as well, from the first time that I started wearing niqab, that was the mistake that I made, whereby I went from, I put it on firstly without fully understanding the meaning.
Yes.
And at that point, I was struggling with prayer as it was, and I went from not praying to forcing myself to pray 5 times a day on time,
Yeah.
and then doing night prayer as well. And I
Mhm.
completely cut out music. I cut off people that I was friends with,
Mhm.
who weren't necessarily Muslim or like practicing, and that kind of made it hard in a sense because I didn't have that support system around me. Which is weird to say because it's like, what are you going to benefit from people who aren't practicing or aren't Muslim? You'd actually be surprised that for me right now, majority of my support system are people um, who aren't Muslim or who aren't um, perceived to be great Muslims.
Mm.
And that's like for the most part of it because of the encouragement that they give me and the understanding that they give me.
Alhamdulillah.
I think that's why this time around I've been able to stick with it as well because I haven't cut off people the way I did when I first put it on.
Yeah.
I just distanced myself a bit more, especially from people that I thought, okay, these are people that are going to make it harder for me to practice.
Alhamdulillah. So, sister, have you met
Yeah,
anybody who wants to wear the niqab like yourself, obviously, but they're not allowed to wear it at all?
actually, I always get people messaging me about, oh, like I really want to start wearing it, but I don't know what to do because my family would really frown on it.
Mm.
Um, and the advice that I give to them always is to firstly make sure that you're not doing it for anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because if you're doing it for something that has nothing to do with Allah, then guaranteed you're going to end up falling out with it.
Yeah, subhanallah.
Um, and secondly as well, I always say ease yourself into it
Yeah.
because again, those were the mistakes that I made whereby the first time I wasn't really 100% sure why I wanted to do it, like genuinely wanted to do it.
Mhm.
I just thought, oh, I'm doing it for Allah, and so just let me throw it on. But I realized that when what other people were saying started to get to me, I realized that maybe actually I wasn't wearing it for the right reasons at that time, even though I didn't intentionally say, oh, let me put it on because people or like I didn't do it for other people.
Yeah.
So whenever I do get people messaging me, I tend to say, firstly, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Secondly, ease yourself into it. And then when it comes to family not, allowing it, for me, with my family, obviously, because I can't speak from experience that I haven't had. The experience that I've had with my own family is that they weren't happy with it, but we had this culture within our family whereby it's like you do what you want, but you also accept the consequences of whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
So for me, that meant, if, for example, if I had a negative experience outside whereby someone says something to me or whatever, I can't complain about it because presumably I know what I'm getting myself into when I'm first starting with wearing it.
So have you ever met anybody who's been forced to wear the niqab?
No, not forced as in like family, like you have to wear it.
Yeah.
I have come across one person. Actually, yeah, one person. This was when I was still a carer. One of my clients actually, she was married to. She herself was a Christian, but she was married to a what's it called? She was married to a Muslim Pakistani.
Right.
And when she got married to him, he like forced her to put on jilbab and niqab, and the kids were always going to madrasa and whatever.
Was she
Which,
while she's still a Christian?
yeah,
That's
but it was like he wasn't taking into consideration that this person is a whole person of their own.
SubhanAllah. That's just ridiculous. So did she actually do it?
At that point, yeah.
Wow.
And it actually got to a point where she ended up being paralyzed because of the violence that
Oh wow.
he was using against her, where she there was one incident and her being paralyzed from the waist down, which is why she needed a carer. And then, believe it or not, he then actually left her because again she became paralyzed. So when I started working with her, this had already like completely happened. And yeah.
SubhanAllah. Okay, sister. So finally, to end this interview, I will ask you, what does the niqab mean to you?
So for me, I would say first thing that it would mean to me is protection. And honestly, I feel like that's such a cliche thing to say, but I think niqab has actually deterred me, it's deterred so many things from happening to me. And also, just sometimes I find myself in situations where the niqab is what stops me from doing certain things. So, for example, if I'm on a bus and someone else berates me, obviously for me, I've got this thing where I can snap at people very easily if they say just the right thing to kind of annoy me. And it just I have to remind myself, like, Nims, you're wearing the niqab, and with that comes a certain responsibility. Like, you need to behave in a certain way towards everyone at all times. So for me, it mainly serves as a reminder. But also, I think it's what gives me my confidence, because I know that when I'm applying for jobs and stuff, people tend to take me on purely based off of like who I am as a person. I feel like I'm valued more in that sense. I'm not really sure if that answers your question, but
Yeah, it does. It does answer the question, mashallah. It's not like it's not an exam.
because obviously some different people have different meanings for them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, that's why it's a personal question at the end of the day. It's not you know, I wouldn't say there's a right or a wrong answer. It's
Yeah.
everybody's going to have their own individual take on it, you know. So
Yeah.
I was just listening because I don't like to interrupt sisters when they're, especially like this question, when they're trying to express their thoughts on it, because sometimes it's hard for people to even pinpoint exactly, how they feel about it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, Jazakallah khair, sister. Thank you for giving me your time today and sharing your niqab story with us for the Niqabi Diaries. And
Not a problem at all. My pleasure.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair, sister.
Yeah, okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.